make sure that you're not feeling like you're alone. Like we need people that are pouring into us and helping us feel refreshed. And I know for a long time for me, like I didn't rest well. And I realized this way too long into my ministry. I was doing a poor job at resting, and I had no idea what resting meant for me.
Well, hey friends, welcome back to the show today. Thanks for making time wherever you are, wherever this podcast finds you today. Thanks for making this podcast today a part of your day. If you're not following and subscribe to the show, make sure you do so you catch these episodes every time they come out. Excited to jump in today with a really important topic, especially if you're listening to this in real time. You know, in youth ministry, so often our summers are packed and busy, and yet we get to the end of summer and we don't really get a break all the time. It's usually we just shift gears and then we're headed into the school year, the next school year. And so how do we navigate some of those things? What are some things that are really key and crucial to make sure that we're not just limping out of summer and into the school year? So we tackle all of that and a ton more today. Steve Cullum joining the show today. He is with the National Network of Youth Ministry, coaching and mentoring youth pastors all of the time. So dropping a ton of wisdom. He also has an incredible youth ministry podcast called Student Ministry Connection that you should go and check out as well. So lots of practical things for you today as we dive in, tons of takeaways. I know you're going to enjoy hearing it. So with all that said and all that out of the way, let's jump into today's interview here with Steve Cullum.
Welcome to the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast, helping you survive and thrive in youth ministry. And now, here's your host, Jody Livingston.
Well, hey, Steve, thanks for taking some time. I know this is a busy stretch and season for you, so I really appreciate you taking some time to jump on here with us today. For folks who are listening who don't know you, aren't familiar with kind of your journey, your story, what you do, maybe take just a few minutes and kind of let us know who you are, maybe your journey in youth ministry and what you do.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on here, Jody. I appreciate it. And right now my role is with National Network of Youth Ministries. So I'm the Colorado coordinator for NNYM. And essentially what that means is we really love helping youth leaders thrive. And we do that mostly through collaborative spaces we call networks throughout the country, online, different things like that, because we believe that youth ministry shouldn't be done alone at all. And so we need each other. We need to rely on each other. We need to support each other, friendships, prayer, all those sort of things. But we need to really lean on each other to help us reach more students together. And so that's what I get to do primarily in the state of Colorado, but I also get to do some other national initiatives as well. And so my wife and I live in Longmont, Colorado, and we've been there for about 8 years. Moved out there to do youth ministry and also got involved as a volunteer within NYM. And then about 2.5 years ago, stepped in full time and been doing that ever since. But I grew up in Illinois and loved, Jesus from a very young age, and just huge thanks to my family for raising me in the church and really helping me understand my faith and everything at a young age. And throughout my high school years is when I really got connected into youth ministry, loved going to youth group myself. My youth pastor gave me lots of opportunities to get plugged in and serve within kids ministry and student ministry. And that just really set me up on my journey. And so I went to Lincoln Christian University for my undergrad and my seminary classes, did some different internships and residencies and small church ministry there in Illinois, and then got open some doors for me to move to New England. And so I did a startup church, first youth pastor at a startup church in southern New Hampshire for 10 years. And then he moved me out to Colorado, where I've been for the last 8 years. And like I said, youth pastor first, and did that. I've been doing that, serving within youth ministry for, I think it's going on 26, 27 years now, which is crazy. And then of course, NNYM is my main gig now, where I get to support other youth leaders, and also host a podcast myself called Student Ministry Connection. And we've been doing that for almost 10 years as well.
Yeah. Great show. If you've not listened, it's a great show. Just super helpful podcast. that's how we know are connected a little bit through that as well. So yeah, Colorado sounds terrible. It sounds, I mean, every picture I see of Colorado just looks like a dump. Like, who would ever want to move there? It's funny. You've been doing youth ministry as long as me, but I seem to have a lot more gray.
I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
It's there. I just hide it well.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, we're going to jump into this idea, this topic that I think every youth minister, every youth pastor feels to some degree. You're running through summer, right? So we're kind of at the time of recording this, we're at the tail end of the summer, kind of in July. So depending on how your schedule works and school systems and stuff go, you may be almost done, or you might still have a little bit to go. But, if you're like me, you're coming out of summer, you're tired. You've done camps and mission trips and extra events on top of events. And, everybody else is kind of going and vacationing, maybe depending on, kind of the size of your group and where you live. But your vacation was camp, and somebody probably asked you how your vacation at camp was. And so now you get to the end of summer, and in the best scenario where it's been an amazing summer, you're still really, really tired. And yet in student ministry, we don't get to like coast. We just kind of shift gears again. School year starts up and we start running. And so how do we come out of a busy season of summer and not completely limp into the school year is kind of the idea. And so I think for us, when you think of that scenario, Steve, I'm sure as you're talking to youth pastors across, whatever through your work with NNYM, like how do you see youth pastors handling that?
Yeah. I think, as you were saying, I think a lot of them are struggling, and I'm no exception to that rule. I mean, there are years that I feel like I got it right, and there's other years that I feel like, have I learned anything? So yeah, it's ups and downs, but I think a lot of them are struggling with that for sure, because while the rest of the church mostly kind of, I won't say shuts down, but kind of goes on, cruise control during the summer, youth ministry kicks up in most settings. Not always. Sometimes it's the exception to the rule, but for a lot of times you got camps or mission trips and big events that you're trying to take advantage of students and their more flexible time during the summer. And so if we're doing that, all of a sudden we're going, and then back to school really is, that's a big kickoff time. We want to hit that strong so we can have a strong school year. And so, yeah, I think a lot of them are in the process of like trying to wrap their head around, how do I transition well and don't run out, don't run empty when we should be going strong. So I think it's definitely a good topic for us to discuss today.
So when you think of that scenario, let's say you're having coffee with a youth minister and they're like, man, I am just done. I am burned out from summer. Love where I am. Don't want to leave where I am. Don't want to leave youth ministry. It's not that kind of conversation, but I am tapped, man. I am gassed. And I'm just not sure how I'm going to step into the school year. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, are there certain things for you that come to mind of like, man, here's where I think you should begin, and maybe 2 or 3 things that would follow?
Yeah. I think a couple things come to mind. I think the first thing that comes to mind really is sometimes we just really need a physical break. And so if you've not planned for a vacation, get one on the calendar as soon as possible. Even if it's not during the summer, in that break between summer and the school year starting, having something for a lot of people, and I'm included in this, on the calendar that you're looking forward to can give you the energy to push through the hard times, because like, oh, I've got this to look forward to. I'm going, to the beach in October, or I'm going to Colorado in November, or whatever it is. Get something on the calendar so that you can look forward to that. I think is really important. But then as well, my big question to a lot of people who are feeling overwhelmed is how many people are helping you in your ministry.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're running on your own? Because I think that's where a lot of burnout really comes from, is I feel like I have to be the one that's planning everything and programming everything and teaching everything. And if I'm not there, if I'm not the one driving this, no one's going to be able to do it. So I have to be the one doing it, and I'm giving and giving and giving and giving. And so make sure that you have a team that you're bringing alongside of you. And then thirdly, kind of along those same lines, who's pouring into you? Man, make sure that you're not feeling like you're alone. Like, we need people that are pouring into us and helping us feel refreshed. And I know for a long time, for me, like I didn't rest well. And I realized this way too long into my ministry. I was doing a poor job at resting, and I had no idea what resting meant for me. And so I had to actually read some books. I went to some mentors, and I was like, help me understand what rest looks like. And I've been on this journey of understanding Sabbath better and all those things. And it's because people have been speaking into me. I wasn't figuring that out on myself. I needed some help in that. And so lean on other people to guide through that as well.
Yeah, man, those are great. I love those. I literally had a conversation a couple months with kind of somebody like a coach mentor for me. And I was just talking about the season that we've been in. And he said, yeah, you need to put something on the calendar. And his emphasis was the same. Oftentimes the anticipation of that break is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the break itself. And for a long time, like for the first 11 years of my time in student ministry, I was a bivocational youth pastor. And so bivocational, I was a part-time youth pastor who worked 4 jobs is what I was. Yeah. And so, getting a week away, time-wise or even financially, just was not going to happen. And so what I had to realize is I don't necessarily, that doesn't have to be a week away of vacation. I just need something that will fill me, that I can put on the calendar. If it's a day, a full day somewhere, if it's, whatever that looks like, so that I have something to look forward to. I love that, that you said that, because I think that's something I'm realizing in this season is I've not done a great job of that. I'm really good at the spontaneous, let's go, whatever, but I'm not always great at like, let's be intentional with that. I think when you talk about rest, and I'd love to hear what you're learning there, because one of the things that I've realized in myself is for a long time, I would say, oh, well, especially once I became full-time on staff, like Fridays was my day off, when I was a bivocational guy, Fridays was not my day off. I had to fight for a day off. When I wasn't working, I was working a different place. But rest for me didn't just happen because I had the day off. I had to be really intentional with planning that rest. And it didn't mean just laying around on the couch all day. It meant finding things that are life-giving to me and figuring out how to accomplish those, being really strategic with that rest. No one ever told me that. And I'm like, where has everybody been? Why does no one talk about that? Because I just assumed, I got a day off. And then I'm like, why am I still tired? I didn't even do anything yesterday. So when you think of rest and that idea, what are some things you're seeing and learning in that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah. I think for a long time I was just like, okay, I'm supposed to take naps, and like, I'm supposed to lay around and not do anything. And it just wasn't working for me. In fact, sometimes I would get out of it and be even more tired. And so I'm still in the process of learning, but I think it's been really helpful just to learn about myself and analyze, like, okay, what really does give me life and what replenishes me and fills my soul. And so one of the things I've realized, and this might not be a huge surprise, but it really is Bible time. Like I get so refreshed when I am able to just sit aside and just study the scriptures and get into it. Hours will go by and it doesn't feel like it happens. And so when I'm able to just shut things off, but not just shut off and take a nap, but shut off and focus on my time with God and actually spend time with my Father, is remarkable. I'm ready to go, like, after that. But then also I think for me, it's times where, and this is something I realized probably within the last 5 years. And in fact, I know exactly the time that I learned this. It was right before the COVID shutdown. And I can't remember who taught me or who told me, but they just told me, hey, invite Jesus along with you in what you do. Like he just wants to spend time with you. And I've got to admit, like as at that time, a 30-something youth pastor who'd been doing something, this stuff for a while, I'm like, I should have known that already.
Yeah.
But I was learning it at that point. And so I took a retreat for just a couple days, a personal retreat, just got away. And at one point I just invited God. I was like, okay, God, I really like comic books. You've made me like this. I love Marvel stories. I'm going to read this comic book. I'm just going to spend time with you. You want to read it with me? And it seems weird to say that out loud, but I just kind of sat down and had my mind focused on God as I was reading it, and being able to look at it through those lenses and just be able to enjoy that with God. And along those lines, I was able to just get out in nature. I love being in nature. I can go for a hike or just be by, a stream or a river or a lake, and just take in time with God is really big for me. And so I love video games, but a lot of times that's not a resting time for me, because I get into it and I'm like getting anxious, or I'm like trying to make myself better in Rocket League or whatever I'm playing at the time. But I've realized that's not a resting time for me. But when I'm in nature, or I'm studying scripture or things like that, has been a lot more resting for me. And I immediately can tell the difference. Like the next day, I'm actually ready to go and live out, whatever God's got for me that day, rather than if I just took a day that I just played video games all day and I just, tried to take naps. I'm not filled with energy after those days.
Yeah. I think that changes too. Like I didn't realize, when I was younger, especially, I was just naturally more outdoors. And the area that I lived in helped. I don't think I realized how life-giving that was until I lived in a place where that was a little harder to be. And recognize, man, what is missing? Like, oh gosh, that was so, I was just doing it. I wasn't thinking much about it. The older I get, which this makes me sound super old, but like the less, how do I say this? It doesn't come as natural, right? To step into some of those spaces. I think as my kids have gotten older, I've been a parent for so long now. A husband, father has been such a primary person, or part of who I am, in addition to pastor. Now I'm kind of starting to launch some kids out, and I'm having to kind of back up a little bit and rediscover, like, what are the things that I really enjoy and find not just distracting to fill time, but like you said, filling, life-giving. And it's been a bit of a journey. And the only way I can say I've figured it out so far is just to keep trying stuff. Even if I think, I don't know if I'd like that. Like, well, I'll try it and see. And maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Because one thing I've learned is my day will fill itself. One way or the other, it'll fill itself. And I just don't want to get to the end of the day and look back and go, what the heck did I do today? I don't even know,
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how hard that becomes, though.
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
again,
I think
no
what
one
you
told me
said,
that.
well, I think what you said about trying things is huge, because I think for a lot of people, for whatever reason, I think we think of rest and Sabbath as, well, we have to read our Bible and we have to pray and we have to just don't do anything. Well, if that doesn't work for you, like, we need to have freedom to say that's just not working for me, and that's okay. Like, it's okay if you don't, spend 24 hours praying. Like, that's okay. Like, whatever does work for you. And I've encountered some people where they really do, like, spending time with their kids and their family is incredibly life-giving. And that won't seem, on the surface, it doesn't seem like a restful time. But for some people, that does give them rest, and they're just energized by that. And so if that's you, then lean into that, whatever works for you.
Yeah. I think too, you mentioned, man, just getting away and studying. I think most of us, and maybe this isn't fair to say, I'm going to make an assumption, and I try not to do this too often. I think most of us, when we first step into ministry, love studying the word. It's very life-giving. And then over time, it can start to feel, without us even realizing it, more like our job. And we forget that it is very life-giving and enjoyable. And I talk to youth pastors all the time that if they're honest, they say, man, I study to teach, and that's about it, and rather than, man, I'm being filled and serving out of an overflow. And whether that's your scripture or whether your Bible study or whether that's mountain biking or hiking or bowling or knitting or whatever, yard work, gardening, whatever those things are, if you're not filling yourself with rest on a consistent basis, then when moments like end of summer, beginning of school year come, where you're really feeling taxed, you probably came into the summer a little on empty. You've survived summer on empty, and if you don't establish those rhythms coming out of that, it doesn't matter how busy or not busy your fall is going to be. You're just going to burn out. Yep. And so you've got to really find and establish some patterns and rhythms there, and try to figure out what that looks like. You mentioned people pouring into you. That's something I hear a lot from, especially younger youth ministers. Is like, I want a mentor. I want someone. And I find many of them expect that to be a senior pastor, which is often not the case. If someone's listening and they're saying, man, yes, that's the thing I need. I've got the rest thing figured out. I'm running well there. But I need somebody to pour into me. How do I find somebody like that? Where do you start? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. Just to reiterate what you said as well, like I've talked to some churches, and that's kind of on my thing that I tell church leaders if I'm working with them, helping them find their next youth pastor. I'm just very upfront with them that, hey, most likely if you're going to hire a young youth pastor, they're going to want this from your senior leadership. They're quite often looking for that, and that's not a bad thing. But if you can't provide that, you need to be upfront with them that that's not what you're able to do, because most of them are going to be looking and desperate for it, for good reasons. And so, I think there's a lot of potential out there for coaching, for mentoring and stuff that's outside of the local church. I think that's one of the reasons why we do what we do with National Network. We really want to come alongside youth pastors and come alongside churches and help supplement what the church leadership is not able to do. And so some of what we do is coaching and consulting and things like that are able to come alongside those youth pastors and help. There's several youth pastors that I meet up with on a regular basis, and whether it be online or go out to coffee and we just talk ministry, and I'm able to be that person for them. But I think there's other fantastic ministries that are out there. I think of Pact Ministry is a really strong one that they offer free coaching, and they offer free coaching training. And so they want coaches to be trained across the country. And then those coaches, those youth pastors are able to then help those that are in their local areas as well. And their whole vision is to do it for free. And there's some people out there that do it for paid, and that's fine. But so many youth pastors, they don't have the budget for it. And so people like NNYM, Pact, and Standing Stone is another fantastic one as well, that they're able to offer coaching and mentoring for free because of generous donors. And so I would encourage, look in those directions for sure. But sometimes some of the best mentors that I've found are other people within my church. There's been a couple elders within the church. They're not on the church staff, but they're elders. They're experienced in ministry. They may not be experts within student ministry, but they've been able to really know enough, and they've helped me along in different ways. Sometimes it's been parents of kids within my youth group, people that I just really look up to, and we meet on a regular basis, and they're the ones that pour into me. Because if I look back in all my years within youth ministry, I'd say very rarely did I have a senior pastor that was that primary mentor for me. I had it within my own youth pastor that I kept going back to years and years and years until he passed. I have my mentor for my internship and my residency that I still call to this day, a lot less than I did in the beginning, but he's still there for me. And then parents and elders and other people, but I've had to seek it out. It doesn't naturally come to me, but I've had to go and seek it out. And even my youth ministry professor from college, he's someone I still call on a regular basis and say, hey, Rondell, how do you do this? And I had to give him a hard time because, when the pandemic happened, I was like, hey, you left that out of your curriculum, how to do youth ministry
right.
in the pandemic.
I don't remember. I'm looking back through my notes. I got nothing on this. Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, I think I've had to seek those people out because they're not necessarily coming to me all the time.
That's great. I think I would just say a couple things as I'm hearing you talk. One, I want to be really clear. It's not that your senior leadership or senior pastor doesn't want to mentor you. It's just that they're also really busy with their own thing. And so, they may deeply desire to be that, and they may even tell you they will. But if it doesn't happen, it's not because they don't want to. It's just because they're just really, really busy as well. Yep. I do think you have to be intentional to seek that out. I love that. I would say, I would add to that, as you do, be clear on what you're expecting. I'll often have folks say, hey, can you be a mentor? And my question is, what does that look like for you? And often they haven't thought through that, And the best mentor, this is my opinion, isn't necessarily always a formal, like, okay, we're going to do this together. It's just more of I just want to be around you, be near you, learn from you, talk just as I'm navigating situations, get some feedback. Those have been gold mines for me. And the one area of mentorship that I think is so neglected now, I had somebody ask me a few years ago, hey, when you first started out, like, who were the mentors in your life in youth ministry? And I was like, man, I got to think about that. And I was like, well, it was like Doug Fields. It was Duffy Robbins. It was, and they're like, oh my gosh, you knew those guys? I was like, no, but I bought their books, and I read them a lot. And I realized so much of my because I didn't know what I was doing. I did not have a youth pastor growing up. We had some volunteers who worked with our youth. The first time I ever went to church camp was as a youth pastor. So I went to asthma camp as a kid, which is, let's just say, not the same. But I was figuring it out as I went. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I was literally reading I remember grabbing Duffy Robbins' book, The Ministry of Nurture, which to this day is still one of my favorite youth ministry books. And it was early 80s when it was old when I got it, and I was just grabbing books. And so what I've realized too, now having written a book is, man, it took me years to write and refine that book. And I wanted a shorter book on purpose. Like, I'm trying to distill it down to, okay, what are the essentials there? Yeah. I talk more in that book. If you take 3 years of writing and distilling, than I could ever cover in a coffee meetup, right? I could meet with you for coffee or lunch, and we could talk about things. Or you could just read what I spent 3 years working on and learn what that would be like. And so I think we've entered into a phase where people aren't reading as often. And in ministry, youth ministry books, they're not always available for audiobook. But if you really want to be mentored, go to the library. There's a ton of great books out there for folks you can learn from, and you'll have to sift a little bit. This doesn't work in my context, or this does here. Podcasting is another, obviously. You and I both know that. Folks reach out, or I'll run into folks, and it's like, I've never met them, but they know me really well, which is great. It's super fun. So I think those are obviously outside of a one-on-one relationship. It doesn't replace it. But if you're in an area where you're looking around, you go, man, I'm just in a really small church. There's not anybody around me. Doesn't mean you can't find them. Yeah. You just might have to look in a different place.
Yeah. And I think what you said too about expectations is huge. Like, we need to be clear about our expectations, because I know some youth leaders that may be in a position where their senior pastor may be waiting for them to come. and they're going, oh man, I guess my youth pastor doesn't want my input.
Yeah.
And so they may just be waiting for you to come and ask. And so be forthright with what you're expecting from your leadership as well. And if they don't have the capacity, then hopefully they will tell you that. And then you can take it to other people as well. And I think even if we do have senior pastors who really they do have the capacity that are pouring into us, we need to make sure that we do have outside voices as well. We need to be reading those books and those podcasts and networks and other mentors and coaches as well, because that whole thing, like similar to what we teach, students and parents, it takes a village. Well, it takes a village to raise a youth pastor too. It's not just totally. one senior pastor. We need all those different voices speaking into us.
That's awesome. I love that. I was reminded again of the importance of kind of what we're talking about this week. A former staff member that I worked with on staff at a church, I just needed some perspective, some outside perspective. And so called and spent maybe 20, 30 minutes on the phone and was just reminded, man, this is really encouraging. Like I need people that I can call, and that's not even necessarily a mentor. That's more of a peer-to-peer. But even when you talk about networking, which I know is a huge thing for you guys, it's not like I'm sitting there, not a complaint fest of like, oh, well, that's nothing. Let me tell you how bad it is where I am at,
Yeah.
Or we did this awesome thing. And then you're sitting there going, oh, we wish we could do an awesome thing. But just to have somebody to sit and just listen. And I would say be mindful to be that for others as well. Because sometimes we forget that we are able to mentor as well. So we're not just up, but down and backwards for us.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's awesome. What about, here's something that I always tell folks do. I wonder if this is something you've done. I always make a next year or a next time kind of note that I put somewhere. I think if I was coming to the end of summer and I'm feeling tired, I'd probably sit down and make some next time. Okay. Next time I need to make sure that I rest before summer. Right.
Yeah.
Or next time I probably need a plan for the fall before July.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things like that as you think back in your time serving in the local church and in conversations you're having now, where you were ahead of the game a little bit coming into the fall, which helped you kind of have some of that space? And what were maybe some of those things?
Yeah, I think I have the blessing and the curse of being a perfectionist. So I'm constantly critiquing myself and everything around me. And so, I'm constantly making those lists mentally and physically as well. But I think the vast majority, and you hit on this, like the vast majority of things that have helped me is when I'm planning ahead. As much as possible. The more that I've planned ahead, the better it is. And so that's huge. And now I've gotten to the point where even in my interim ministry that I'm wrapping up right now, I was trying to plan a year in advance, as best as possible. And, the little details, as you know, are not going to be filled in a year in advance, but I've got a year out that I know what's going on. And so you can plan for those things and you can schedule in those things that you didn't do the time before, because when you get into it, as you alluded to as well, there's very little that you can do right now if you're in the middle of that burnout. So you need to rest and take some time away if you can, but really you need to be planning for the next time. And scheduling out, what are you going to be teaching about? What leaders can you get on board now so that you can have a solid team that you can lean on next time? Yeah. So I'd say planning ahead and then having a solid team has been really, really helpful for me, because then I can lean upon them and I don't have to feel like I'm doing it all myself. And then I'd say probably I learned this just a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, really was if I plan rest. And so if I'm going into, I have a soft rule about like a mission trip or a retreat. And if it's like 5 days straight, I'm going to take half that time as comp time. And hopefully your church allows you to do such a thing. If not, have a conversation with them. I would encourage you to do that. But and this is not a hard and fast rule, but a general rule of if it's 5 days, I'm taking 2.5 days to rest before and after. So maybe I'll take 1.5 days after or before and 2 days after, or whatever it is, to kind of equal that out. Because not only do I need rest before, this is something I learned, is I need rest or after, but I need rest before. And to prepare myself and whatever that takes. And some of the best times is when I have just went up into the mountains and just spent time with God before a retreat or a camp. And that camp went so much better. And I was fueled and ready to go because I spent time resting prior to the event and not just recovering afterwards.
Yeah. If you're listening and you're sitting here going, man, I hear you say I need help and a team, and I'm not sure where to start. And you just don't have one, or you're struggling, like, I don't even know what I'd have them do, or I don't. There's a real simple process that I always tell folks to do. Make a list of all the things you're doing. No, it doesn't matter how small. Go back through the list, circle the things on the list that only you can do. Nobody else can do but you. And then everything else is an opportunity. Now you need to take a few things that other people could do. There's probably things on that list that other people could do, but you enjoy. And so you're allowed 1 or 2 of those. But other than that, those are spots that you can start to ask folks to help. And it doesn't matter the size of your church. It doesn't matter the size of your budget. The reality is, the larger your ministry, the more need you have. And it doesn't scale evenly. It's not a 1-to-1. Like you would think a larger church, you'd have more people to pull from, but that doesn't always work that way either. And so if you sit here, listen to this now, and you're limping out of summer into it, and you're like, man, it's all on me, then your next time needs to be, this year you need to really focus on building a team around you that can encourage, and then you need to start empowering them to take on some of those pieces and components.
Yeah. And our mutual mentor there, Doug Fields, said several years ago, and it's always stuck with me. I think a lot of times we think of, we need to equip volunteers to work ourselves out of a job, but that's not the right kind of mindset we need to have. Doug said that we need to work ourselves into our sweet spots.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. I'm like, we need to work ourselves into those areas that really do give us life. What are those parts of youth ministry that we would do even if it was free? We weren't getting paid for it, because that's where we get life from. That's what we want to be doing more of. And then find people that those other areas that don't give us life, it may give life to those people. And we need to put those people in those spots as well. Yeah.
And the reality is, and I know this isn't what you're going to end up doing things you don't like. You're going to have to do, you're going to have to do things you hate. Like it's just part of what it is. But you don't have to do them all. I love that. That's great. I've not heard that. That's amazing. That's super good. Yeah. I think planning ahead for rest, planning ahead for, what the fall is going to look like, building a team around you, finding some people to pour and invest in you, having a network of friends, all of those things. Those are the things I'm thinking that we talked about. Man, yeah, for sure. Those things matter. Is there anything else, and you don't have to, is there anything else that comes to mind that you're like, man, this was actually really helpful for me? Or you can say no.
No,
I'm putting you on the spot for sure.
You're good. No, I think really the biggest thing that kind of underlines all of that is be okay with taking a break.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. If you need a break, it's okay. Like the world will go on. And hopefully if you have at least a small team around you, they can continue on. And if you need a break, it's okay to take one.
Yeah. And plan. When we say take a break, we don't mean like, I'm out, you guys got it. No, like,
right.
Like plan for what's going to happen while you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, while you're like, oh, this is so much planning. Now I'm planning to be gone. Plus I'm planning for them when I'm gone. Yes. But it'll make a massive, massive difference.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter, again, the size of church you're in, the context, demographically where you're at, geographically where you're at. All of these things are true, and they'll be true from day one, to day, 1001. Like it doesn't matter how long you do this, but if you don't do those things, you're not going to last. I mean, you're just not going to last. I tend to be very driven. I love taking the next hill. I actually, one of the dangers that I have to be mindful of, and my wife and I have had a lot of conversations about this over the years. I just love work. Not a workaholic kind of thing. We're like, oh, I got to have it to give value to my life. I just find work very life-giving. And in ministry, man, that can be a dangerous combination because there's always work to be done. And so I've had to learn that rest is also work. There's value in that as well. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a hard one for me. I'm learning it still. I'll tell you that. I'm learning that still.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that just popped in my head as you were saying that too, you mentioned your wife, but I think if you are married, it's really important to know what gives that life and that rest to your spouse as well. And my wife and I are different. She's an introvert. I'm an extrovert. Like I get energy when I'm around people. And if she's around people too long, that'll be draining for her and vice versa. And so working that out with your spouse, if you're married, is really important too. So don't neglect that in the process.
I talk a lot about this. I've talked about it in the past. It's in the book as well, but I think forever I've heard people talk about balancing family and ministry. And I remember early on hearing people say, don't put your family on the altar of ministry. Those all sound so nice, right? Yeah. But there's no balance. No. And the reality is if God has called you into ministry, he's called you also into that family with your family. And that's going to look different for different folks, different people. But it's really a matter of fighting for health and recognizing, hey, this season of my life, whether it's like of your life or of the year within this life, right? My family needs a little more of my attention. This season of my life, my ministry needs a little more of my attention. This season of my life, I need a little more of my attention, right? And that's the one I often neglect. I think, and those are to your point. Yes, those are conversations you need to be having all the time. And even like you said, like as you say that now, I'm thinking, gosh, yeah, you're talking about the value of rest before and after a trip. If you're married and you have kids, you probably need to lean in there a little before and after. Summer's crazy for us. The school year when it kicks off is bonkers, but Christmas generally for us slows down a little. We're partying it out, while worship teams are freaking out. And so, I know you're going to preach the week after Christmas, but you've got a while to work on that message. Yeah. And so recognizing those seasons, those are maybe some slower seasons. How do you be more intentional there to really lean in, pour in, and kind of be refreshed? All of those, it's kind of the opposite end of the wheel, if you will. Yeah. So.
Yeah, knowing that calendar, and I think it's hard for brand new youth pastors who are maybe going through this for the first time. I think it's similar to a brand new teacher in the school system. You got to learn those rhythms, but once you do, pay attention to them. And because there's going to be times where it's going to be like, hit the pedal down, you're going hard. And then there's other times where the rhythm will allow you to just coast a little more and take advantage of that time.
Yeah. Got to come up for air. Yep. For sure. Well, Steve, if folks are wanting to connect with you beyond here today, what is the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, I'm on social media. Pretty much most social media is at Steve Cullum. So that's SteveCullum. And then I have my website blog is stevecullum.com. And that's probably the best place because you're going to be able to find links to all the social media and my podcast and NYM, what I do there. All those kind of things are in one location at stevecullum.com. So that's probably the best place to go. And then you can kind of filter out beyond that what you need.
That's awesome. And then one thing I'll mention for listeners, if you've made it this far with us, thanks for hanging. Steve's in the middle of a project on longevity, which if you listen to this is like obviously super close to my heart. Yeah. And so there's a survey that he's having some folks fill out. I'm going to link to the survey in the show notes. So if you're listening to this relatively as it comes out, if you could jump over to the show notes and take a chance to fill that out, that'd be super helpful for Steve as well as he walks through it. And if you're listening to it late, well, where were you? We were waiting and you just never showed up. So anyway, I'll also put a link to Steve's website and all those things in the show notes as well. Yeah, and for sure, check out the podcast because there are some really good youth ministry podcasts out there, and this is one of them. And so make sure you head over and check out Steve. Just a lot of wisdom there from life lived, ministry carried out. Love the guests, and we have a lot of similar guests that have actually been on there, so it's a lot of fun. So,
yeah, it's been great, and
cool.
Thanks for what you've done. I've told you offline, but I'll tell you more in public on the podcast as well. Your book came out just at a perfect timing. I was like, I'm launching into this research, and I'm like, oh, Jody write a book just about what I'm researching. So it's gonna be a huge piece of the research project and future things that we do with it. And just super excited to see what God does with all this, and excited to see, what God does through your book and your continued podcast as well. And very grateful for what you've done as well.
Hey, man, you're very kind. I made most of the stuff up in the book, so I don't know how research based it's going to help, but we'll see.
It's your own story, which is
that's
great.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's my story. I'm living it. So, Steve, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Just appreciate Steve so much. He's in the middle of kind of doing a bit of a tour even across the country as he is raising some support. So I'm grateful for him to give some of his time today. Make sure you head over to the show notes page, thelongerhaul.com/episode 151, and check out the links there so you can connect with Steve. Check out the podcast, Student Ministry Connection, as well as make sure you click on the link if you're listening to this kind of at or near the time of release. You click on the link to take the survey to help him out as he's doing some research there on some longevity, obviously a topic that is very, very close to my heart, as you see here with the Longer Haul Youth Ministry podcast, as well as the book, Staying Power, which I still would love you to check out if you have not yet. And if you have, head over to Amazon, Lifeway, Christian Book, leave a short review. It helps a ton for other folks as they're looking for books and knowing that this is a good one. And so share that with you. Hopefully today you found helpful. We'll be back in the next episode with some more practical helps to help you stay in this thing for the longer haul. So with all that said, we will catch you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast. Before you go, hit that subscribe button to keep these conversations coming. For notes, resources, and to join our community, swing by thelongerhaul.com. Stay encouraged, keep making a difference, and remember, we're in this for the longer haul. Catch you on the next episode.